Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Mahoney. I'm the author of The Guardian of the Opera trilogy, and I blog at marvelloustales.com, where this year I'm hosting the Phantom of the Opera Reading and Viewing Challenge. Possibly I should have called it the Reading, Viewing, and Listening Challenge, but how long a name can it be? Because today I'm going to talk about a soundtrack version of the Phantom of the Opera. This is the Phantom, the American musical sensation version. It's also called the, Yeston and Copit version. I hope I pronounced that right. It's actually the soundtrack for a play, a not Andrew Lloyd Webber play. There are other versions. I have not been able to see it as a play so far. To my knowledge, there is not a filmed version. If there is, someone tell me. I'd love to see it. And it has not been performed live anywhere near me that I've been able to go and view. So I have only listened to the soundtrack, and that is mostly what I'm talking about today. I don't think I've ever reviewed a soundtrack before, but hey, why not? I've been listening to it a lot lately. I'm going to end up talking as well about the Charles Dance Phantom. The two are very closely related. So Maury Yeston wrote the music and lyrics for the musical version. Arthur Copit wrote the book. He also wrote the teleplay for the Charles Dance version. So they are very closely connected, very, very similar in many ways. This one is not a musical. So, I mean, there's singing in it. Obviously, the Phantom and Christine sing, but they're actually singing opera. I don't think any of it is in a language I can understand. It's not what I'd call a musical. It's only singing actually on stage where you'd expect singing to be in normal life. Well, some people burst into song randomly in life, and it's wonderful, but not so typically the way they do in musicals, which is what they do here. So anyway, I'm going to end up talking about both because they do seem to cover a lot of the same areas. Some of the things that are, I was going to say unique, but it's two, so it's not really unique. But some of the things that make this version different are also in this one. So let's talk about how it's different from other versions. In terms of the primary story, I guess I'd say it's very similar. There's some differences in nuances, but we do have the basic story of the masked man living under an opera house, and he falls in love with Christine, the beautiful soprano. His name is Eric in this one, so nothing strange going on there. Eric with a K, of course, if you've seen my other video about the Phantom's name. The biggest alteration really is in kind of the subplot side of things. So right near the beginning, we're introduced to Gérard Carrier. I think I pronounced that right because it's in the movie, so I've heard it. And he is the manager of the opera, and he has a very close, long-term friendly relationship with the Phantom. And they actually work together a lot on productions. The Phantom gives advice, Carrier implements it. In the Charles Dance version, at least, he credits the Phantom for having the genius that made them a great theater company for many, many years. However, as the story is opening, the opera house has been sold and there is a new manager coming in. They're booting Carrier out, which of course is going to be a problem for the Phantom because that's how he's been able to live there all this time. Which is interesting because it does explain that aspect in a way that I don't think any other version does. LaRue generally figures that he's either blackmailing or just terrorizing the management into letting him stay for potentially years. Webber just sort of skates past it. You sort of get the sense that the previous manager is afraid of the Phantom, but there isn't a lot of information about it. This actually makes sense that he can stay for 2 decades because the manager, more than that, probably 3, because the manager is working with him, and that makes it work. But now the manager is leaving. Carrier is heading out. And the new people running the opera are Carlotta and her husband. So there's a lot of kind of subplot things of Carlotta trying to run the opera her way, and she wants to be the new star, and the Phantom cannot stand her voice. There's a great line in Charles Dance the first time he hears her singing and says, oh, the opera really is haunted. It's great. So we see that play out in the movie, and I mean, it's a little harder to tell when I only have the songs here, but as far as I can tell, it's all playing out the same way here, that he's playing some pretty vicious pranks on Carlotta, and that's all the subplot. The main plot is, of course, about Christine, and that's where there's some interesting nuances and some interesting changes. So one thing I'm going to have to address before I start talking too much about the story is the love triangle. Normally it's Raoul, Christine, and the Phantom. Here, Raoul is Philippe. So normally he's Raoul, the Vicomte de Chagny. Here he's Philippe, the Comte de Chagny. And Philippe is a character. In Leroux, Philippe the Comte is Raoul's older brother. He is in my particular retelling as well, incidentally. But that's not who Philippe is here. They basically just take Raoul's character and give him Philippe's name. For all intents and purposes, for his role in the story, he's Raoul. But for some reason, he's Philippe. So I'm going to try to remember to call him Philippe. I will probably slip and call him Raoul. You know, you can watch for it as this video goes on. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll manage it. But in my head, he's still Raoul because he is Raoul. He's not the character Philippe. He's the character Raoul with Philippe's name. I don't know. It's interesting. So anyway, whatever his name is, it still plays out similarly. And that Christine comes to the opera house. Although in this one, Philippe actually is the one who recommends to her that she go to the opera house. There's a song at the beginning where she's selling music on the street and Philippe is all, oh, your voice, it is so good. You should sing professionally. You should go to Paris. He has a bit of a French accent in this one, which like no one else does, which is interesting. I don't know. And sends her off to talk to Carrier at the opera house. And that's how she gets there. And then the Phantom hears her singing. Although she doesn't get into a role singing initially. She becomes Carlotta's costume person, handling her costumes. Because Carlotta's like, I don't need competition. You can handle the wardrobe. But the Phantom hears her just singing to herself and begins teaching her. That is an interesting difference here too. I actually quite like the Phantom and Christine's relationship in this version and in this version because it's the same, I think, without having seen the play, but I think I am not a Christine Eric shipper. A lot of people are, and I respect that because I know there's a lot of you out there. As a rule, though, Christine and Eric have a really unhealthy relationship. He is usually really scary and lying to her about a lot of things, and she usually can't handle his face or just all the craziness of the guy living under the opera house. I mean, even if you try to assume that he is kinder and gentler and not as scary as he probably is, it's still not working because she can't handle even the kindest version of the Phantom. These two are different in this version. So when he initially offers her singing lessons, he actually like shows up in person. I mean, she can see him. He's like in the auditorium. He's not just a voice through a wall. I should probably say at this point, I meant to say it sooner, there will be spoilers as I keep talking. So if you don't want to know how things turn out, stop now. Okay, so he shows up in person. And she can see he's wearing a mask. She can see he's human, which is a step forward compared to many Phantoms. And he does tell her that he wears the mask to hide his identity because otherwise people would want his singing advice and he doesn't want to do that, but he wants to give lessons to her. So yes, he is sort of lying to her. He's not leading with the, hey, I have a facial deformity, but you can understand why he wouldn't lead with that. And compared to showing up as a voice and saying, I am an angel of music sent by your dead father, this is a really honest Phantom. I mean, he's really being upfront comparatively. And as the story goes on, they actually have a pretty open and honest relationship. Who knew, right? In this one, at least, there's a bit where she goes off with Raoul for a little bit and she briefly, like for 2 minutes, tries to hide this from the Phantom and then is all, no, I shouldn't lie to you. I'm really sorry I did that. I'm going to tell you the truth now. I mean, wow, that doesn't usually happen, that kind of thing, in Phantom Christine relationships. So that's interesting too. I love some of the things they do with the songs in this. There are some beautiful songs in here. Webber has a beautiful musical soundtrack. This is also beautiful. There's no Michael Crawford, with respect to Richard White, who plays the Phantom, but that's okay. He has a beautiful singing voice as well. And there's some beautiful music. There's a lovely song where they're doing the singing lessons. And they're starting out, it's almost like Do Re Mi from Sound of Music, where it's like, let's just sing notes and you hit the higher points and so on. And then they keep sort of bursting into this more emotional music, singing about "you are music" is kind of the refrain of it. And I don't know how it plays on stage, but just listening to the soundtrack, it feels like they are trying to have a singing lesson, but there's a lot of emotional charge between them, and that keeps coming through. And it's really quite beautifully done. It's also very interesting contrasting Christine's love songs with the Phantom and her love song, there's really only one, with Philippe, because they're very different musically. I am not a musical expert, but from what I can hear, and I will probably use the terms wrong, but I'll try to explain what I'm hearing, feeling from this. They're very different styles. When Philippe decides that he's in love with her, and so she just had this great triumph singing to the company, and everyone was really impressed. And she goes off with Philippe, and he's all, "You were so wonderful, and I'm so in love with you, and aren't we happy, and isn't it great, and I'm just totally gone." That's an actual line he has. And like for the first half of the song, it's not even getting through to her. I mean, he's saying, "Christine, I'm in love with you," and she's all still, "Oh, wasn't the singing great, and do you think I was good, and I'm gonna get better, and wasn't it fun, and singing, I'm all about the singing." Eventually, he does get through to her, and she starts singing romantically back, but she's also confused, and she says that up front, which is something that Christines do not usually say, so that's cool too. And it's like, let me try and figure this out, but I really like you, and I really want to kiss you, and so yeah, I feel something here. But even once she starts singing, it's still this kind of light, happy, not that emotionally charged a little bit song. In contrast to when the Phantom sings about Christine, or when they sing together, it is intense. It is deep emotion, and he's like, "I have been waiting for you my whole life. You will bring reason to my life. I will be devastated without you. You are light and life and music and everything to me." And she pretty much sings with him in the points where they sing together. And obviously I'm giving you words here, and it's reflecting the lyrics. So the lyrics are different, but the musical style is different too. And I find that really cool, because it's really using the musical genre is not the word I want, the musical medium, to tell the story and to tell the relationship between these two characters. And just to be clear, I'm not meaning this as a judgment on either relationship. I think you can interpret it either way if you are a Christine Raoul fan or a Christine Phantom fan. You can interpret it either way. That the Phantom really loves her, and Raoul, oh, see, I'm doing it, with Philippe, is actually much more shallow. Or that Philippe loves her in a healthy way, and the Phantom is crazy obsessed. You can interpret it either way. But either way, it's very different. And with respect to Sir Andrew, I feel like that's a bit of a trick he kind of missed, actually, because All I Ask of You and Music of the Night are not that different musically. That's Raoul and Christine's song and the Phantom's song to Christine. In style, they're actually quite similar. So I like what they do here, that they really distinguish between the two of them. So as the story goes on, there are some interesting changes at the end, and another reason I actually really like this Christine and Phantom's relationship. In every version, basically, barring one, the Webber Spectacular version where things just got weird, but that's a different video. Christine takes the Phantom's mask off. She comes up behind him, she somehow gets around him, she yanks his mask off, sees his face, she freaks out, he freaks out, it's all horrible. This one is different. take his mask off. She assures him that she can handle seeing his face. This happens in both. It's dialogue here, it's a song here. And assures him that it'll be okay. And she can look at him and it'll be all right. It's quite a sweet scene here. It's a gorgeous song here. It's a song that convinces me that she could really love him. If she doesn't already love him, she can. That she can accept him and she can look at him and it's going to be okay. There's lines about, I will find you in the shadows where you're hiding and I will bring you out of that and it's going to be okay. So I haven't seen it, but I assume it plays out the same in the play. In the Charles Dance version, he takes his mask off for her. And she faints dead away, and he is devastated. I have to assume it is even more devastating in the play. I assume it plays out the same way, because I mean, the song convinced me that she loves him and can handle this. So I'm sure it convinced him. And it's disastrous, and it's terrible. But it's also a way that it's not Christine betraying him. It's Christine being overwhelmed. The villain is his face, not either one of them, which it usually kind of is, because she betrays him ripping the mask off and then he blows up and becomes scary and they kind of both become terrible in that moment. And it's not here, which makes it even more tragic that it still doesn't work for the two of them. Circling back around to Carrier, remember him, the manager? So there's some more interesting developments with him in what would be Act 2, I guess. It's Act 2 of, this one's a 2-part miniseries. We find out he's not just friendly with the Phantom, he is actually the Phantom's father. And that's why he's been taking care of him all these years. The Phantom, he's never told the Phantom that he's his father. And so he now is the one who's trying to rescue Christine when she gets carried off by the Phantom. And he, in some ways, plays the Persian role. The Persian in LaRue goes to try and rescue Christine. I'm trying to remember if I'm just forgetting it, but I'm pretty sure that Philippe never goes below the opera to rescue Christine. It's just Carrier going to get her. Philippe has a little bit of a I will protect you role, but it's mostly Carrier. So after Christine leaves, Carrier and the Phantom have a lovely moment. The Phantom is brokenhearted. He's, at least in the Charles Dance version, basically dying of a broken heart. They don't really explain how that works on an actual physical level, but he can't handle this. But he's kind of okay in a weird way, because he's like, Christine loved me for a moment, and maybe that's enough, and that is all I can ask out of my life. I feel like I just quoted Webber in a completely different context. That's not what I meant by all I can ask. Anyway, there's a lovely moment between Carrier and the Phantom in both versions. They just talk in this one, they sing it in this one, and it's quite beautiful, where they have finally a moment where Carrier's like, I need to tell you the truth. I'm actually your father. And the line in this, let me see if I can remember right. I've often surmised, for I've known for some years, that my eyes are your eyes. And I wondered how long it would take you to tell me it's true. It's beautiful. They have a very emotional, beautiful song together, actually. They also have a bit, it's in both of them, where they start talking about his face. And Eric says something about, he thought it's not a very good face for a tenor. And Carrier says, no, not for a baritone either. And they kind of laugh about it. And musically, the tenor in the opera is usually the hero and the baritone is the villain. And it's a funny line. And it's the only time, I think, in any of the many, many versions of the Phantom that I have seen or read, that the Phantom actually laughs about his face. And if it wasn't so perfect, I would probably hate it. But I actually really love it. It's just, it's so musical and it's so Phantom. And lest you get the wrong idea, he is deeply consumed with self-loathing and hatred for his own face and all of the like phantom issues that he always has. He has one laughing line aside, but he does have the one laughing line that I honestly quite enjoy. So in the very end is also quite different, where Christine actually comes back willingly. It's not him manipulating her in some way, forcing her in some way. She is really regretful of what happened and willingly comes back to sing for him one more time. Bad things happen. The police show up. It all gets crazy. But Christine and the Phantom still have kind of a final moment together that is actually really positive. So, and it's another beautiful song. So it's a very different Phantom Christine relationship in the nuances. On the broad sweep, there's a lot that's similar, but in the way they actually interact with each other, it's different. And I really enjoy the way these songs bring it to life. I enjoy the way they use the songs to portray the relationship. And I've been talking a really long time, so I should probably end there and just say, if you've only seen the Webber musical, the Yeston and Copit, or the American musical sensation musical, is also very good, and I would recommend checking it out. And I hope I will someday be able to see it as a play. Maybe. We'll hope. Thanks for watching, and find me at marvelous-tales.com for more reviews, mostly books and movies, not so much soundtracks, but hey, maybe I'll do more in the future.